Let's start at the end. The SHIROMUKU, the wedding kimono. At Silent Hill F's core, we have our heroine, Hinako, a young bride-to-be that is going through an intense inner struggle with herself about what she really desires, and if she can, as she sees it, compromise long-held beliefs to go through with this impending ceremony. On all sides, she feels the pressure of filial piety and societal expectation, not just amongst her own family, but also her future in-laws. The amount of money, time, energy, and labor, both physical and emotional, being put into this event by so many people. Think about the money that will go to her parents so that their debts are finally forgiven. It's hard not to feel like you're being sold off. Think of the ceremonial naginata that her new in-laws will bestow on her. How in their family, a new unique handle is crafted for each bride as it's passed down through the generations. And there's Hinako, not even 100% sure this is what she really wants, or arguably she knows it isn't, but she's also somehow not completely opposed to it. Just later. Maybe. Eventually. How can she or her fiancé be sure it's lasting love without having really lived their lives yet? But then, wouldn't agreeing to a marriage at all be a betrayal of her beliefs? Even if she likes the guy, doesn't that mean she's giving up? How can she compromise on this? Going along with the system she despises so deeply? What better symbol of everything she hates about this situation than her own SHIROMUKU? Each day as the wedding date approaches, that kimono is waiting for her, waiting to envelop her, waiting to change her and everything she holds dear, waiting, in Hinako's mind, to take her place. The way Silent Hill F tells its story has been referred to by fans as ludonarrative harmony. If you're not familiar with the term ludonarrative, it's typically used to talk about consistency between gameplay and story and how it can create dissonance and diminish the impact of the game overall, or preferably, the opposite. While you can certainly play through Silent Hill F once and go, huh, wild, and move on with your life, if you take the time to replay the game more than once, you're given new goals to reach, granted additional information, shown familiar scenes framed slightly differently, but in potent ways. You start to get all the different sides to Hinako's dilemma, as well as the parts her loved ones have to play in it. And most importantly, Hinako gets stronger, more resilient. She learns to handle these events with greater and greater strength and, well, efficiency. She becomes more clear in her resolve, coming to terms with her own conflicting feelings and taking a stand to find her own path forward. On more than one occasion, I've heard others express how replaying Silent Hill F feels like a symbolic parallel to the AFAB experience, growing up as a girl, learning to navigate a hostile world and grow armor. I would argue this could be extended to other gender identities as well. The AFAB experience just tends to come up as a talking point as the one that Hinako has lived. Hinako defeating this symbol of potential loss of self she loathes and fears so much. The thing that has more and more come to literally replace her in certain scenes isn't just about turning down a marriage she feels unprepared for. It's about destroying the concept that it should be the only thing that defines her and her future. I'm reminded of the phrase, "Are you wearing the dress, or is the dress wearing you?" in Hinako's situation. As a sacred garment, there's a certain amount of reverence placed on how a bride even moves in their shiromuku, as the average wedding kimono is a fairly heavy affair that requires help to get around gracefully. The wataboshi, or bridal hood, protects the bride as she moves outdoors and obscures her face from everyone but her groom during the wedding ceremony, somewhat similar to a veil in Western traditions. These kimonos are pure white all over, even the undergarments, symbolizing how, through the marriage, the bride will become, and I saw this phrase used more than once, dyed with the colors of her new family, the groom's family, where, especially in generations past, she would be expected to place her priority, leaving behind her own home and relatives, rarely to visit or engage. I think the Shiromuku in Silent Hill F, missing its face, doesn't need a lot of explanation in this context. It's a loss of personal identity, favoring the needs and expectations of others. The fact that the face here has been seemingly sliced off instead of merely being an empty blank space speaks to Hinako's anger and fear. It's not just the loss of self, it's the denial of emotion, the denial of showing her feelings to the world. It's that these things can be forcefully taken from her. To Hinako, this kimono represents denied autonomy. First comes the wedding, then being a good wife, and then babies, whether you're ready or not. So, the fox arm. In Hinako's story, there is this added layer of potential kamikakushi, or being spirited away by the gods. In this case, being disappeared to marry into a deific family due to her special blood. Her personal desires do not factor into the needs of the gods. I'm going to talk more about this and the folklore behind fox weddings in another video. There's just too much to ramble about here. Though I did want to take a moment to point out the trials Hinako undergoes in the Dark Shrine, at least on your first playthrough, to become part of the fox family. Hinako means baby bird, and we see a lot of sparrow imagery connected with her. While Shimizu literally means pure water or clear spring, interesting when we consider the old water dragon religion Ebisugaoka used to follow. And I'm going to stop myself there. Like I said, another topic for another video. Let's get back on track. After the wedding ceremony, the bride will later change out of her shiromuku into an iro uchikake, a super colorful and heavily embroidered kimono for the reception. This is a planned theatrical moment where the bride disappears for a short time, only to reappear seemingly completely transformed by her new marriage. From what I could learn nowadays, brides choose their irouchikake to be more of a personal expression of themselves and their hopes for the future, which I'm sure would please Hinako. By the way, it's worth noting that Junko, Hinako's older sister, is dressed for a wedding through nearly the entire game. She wears a kurotome-sode, a garment traditionally donned by the mother of the bride, but sometimes also worn by married aunts and sisters as well. First off, I wanted to note that I saw Shinto marriage ceremonies called Shinzen Kekko, Shinzen Shiki, and even Shinzen Kekkon Shiki in my research. Regardless of which phrase is used, it translates into some version of marriage before the gods, the kami. Most websites for professional wedding planning tended to use Shinzen Shiki, whereas more academic and general informational pages use Shinzen Kekkon. If you're more of an expert in this area, please feel free to leave a comment and illuminate why there's different names and if there's a better time to use one or the other. Based on the story of Silent Hill F, the small town, the presence of many gods worshipped at different points in history, it would be easy to assume that the wedding Hinako is facing is some strict ancient affair. In actuality, the Shinto ceremony as we know it is a relatively recent format adoption, with the earliest known documentation only dating back to 1872. For historical context, the Meiji Restoration began in 1868, just a few years before. This was a time of industrialization and adoption of Western ideas in Japan, when practical political power was restored to and consolidated under the emperor. This is also when the capital and imperial palace were moved from its nearly millennia-long home in Kyoto to Tokyo. The now familiar Shinzen Kekkon became popularized in May 1900 when the then Crown Prince Yoshihito, later to become Emperor Taisho, married Princess Kujo Sadako. They chose to hold their wedding in a shrine, Hibiya Daijingu, now Tokyo Daijingu, seeking divine blessing for their union. This high-profile ceremony became the new standard that families, especially those of higher social stature, wanted to follow, thereby turning a previously domestic affair, often held in the groom's family home, into a marriage before the gods. By the 1920s, many shrines across Japan had built special wedding halls for these occasions, and after the end of World War II, they became more accessible to the average family. By the 1960s, when Silent Hill F takes place, the Shinzen Kekkon would have been seen as the quote-unquote default wedding in much of Japan. As a side note, to this day, you don't need to practice Shinto as a religion to hold or to be a part of a Shinto wedding ceremony. Anyone is allowed to take part in this sacred ritual. Now, I've never been a guest at any Japanese wedding, though I have witnessed parts of them out in the wild when I lived overseas, mostly Shinto ones. They don't shut down the shrine for these occasions. These are spaces that are generally open to all at all times of the day. The public just naturally gives deference to these ceremonies, respectfully giving space, putting an invisible buffer between them and the wedding, observing quietly or at low volume. Though that doesn't mean they're above snapping plenty of shots on their keitai, and as long as you're not invading the ceremony space or using your flash, nobody minds. Often the only part of the wedding the public will ever see is the procession. Also, while much of this video is focused on the Shiromuku as part of Shinto tradition, they are also commonly worn in Buddhist marriages as well. The big difference here is that you perform your rites before the Buddha and one's ancestors at a temple instead of the local kami at a shrine. Keep in mind that different locations will have different deities enshrined, and in Silent Hill F's Ebisugaoka, a local wedding would likely be performed somewhere devoted to Oinari-sama. Let's break down the different parts of a Shinzen Kekkon, and I'll do my best to attach appropriate footage from Silent Hill F to them. The order of the ceremony can be slightly different depending on the shrine, but I'm sticking to the most common one I found shared by wedding planners. First, the procession, Sanshin. The bride and groom, surrounded by family and close friends, walk in a formal procession led by the priest and miko, or shrine maidens, to the shrine hall. Next, the purification rite, Shubatsu. The priest performs a purification ritual to cleanse all in attendance of any kegare, or spiritual pollution, if you will. This is the part where you see the wand of paper streamers, known as shide, waved over the couple and all their witnesses. In Shinto, the concept of harae, a state of purity, is extremely important to achieve before approaching the divine. Third, we have the prayer recitation, Norito Sojo. The priest will now turn towards the altar to address the kami, announcing the couple's marriage and requesting blessings for their future together. The Norito use an extremely old form of Japanese, dating back to the Ingishiki, a book of laws and customs that were presented to the throne in 927. I've read that the cadence to the Norito has a very specific archaic rhythm to it, and even native Japanese speakers are unlikely to be able to parse word for word what's being said. Shinto priests are trained to deliver prayers and incantations in a way that is intended to bridge the gap between the human world and the divine or spiritual world. Next comes the exchanging of sake, Sansangudo. 3 lacquer cups, 3 rounds of sake. 3 is a lucky indivisible number, and 9 is considered especially auspicious in Shinto, a compounding of good fortune. 3 times 3 is 9. This part of the ceremony represents the binding of the two families. The bride and groom share each cup 3 times. The sacred sake used, called omiki, is considered a blessing from the kami that the couple takes into their bodies. Now we finally come to the vow reading, Seishi Sojo. The couple approaches the altar and the groom reads their vow in a loud voice, addressing the kami. Traditionally, this vow is spoken very formally and emphasizes responsibility, sincerity, and lifelong partnership, with the bride speaking her name at the designated moment. In more contemporary ceremonies, the bride may be encouraged to read the vow together with the groom. This is a declaration before the gods, not a personal exchange between the couple. Then comes the sacred branch offering, Tamaguchi Hoten or Tamaguchi Haire. Tamaguchi offerings are a common and important part of Shinto ceremony in general when communicating with the kami. From the miko, the bride and groom will each receive a branch cut from the sakaki, a sacred evergreen adorned with the shide paper streamers. They present their offering to the altar as a symbol of devotion and humility towards the gods, again addressing them directly. This is the signal that they have completed their vows and are presenting themselves together as a unit to the divine. After the offering, while not a Shinto tradition, there is usually a ring exchange, something that was popularized during the 20th century. Sometimes this is a separate, more secular addition that occurs after the ceremony is over, while other shrines incorporate ring binding or yubiwa gokkan as part of it. Finally, it's time for the family unity toast, Shinzoku hai no gi, where relatives toast one another and partake of the sacred sake, sharing cups and creating a covenant between the families. I kept seeing comments on uploads of Mayoi Uta about some obscure song from Japan in the 20s that the melody was taken from. Luckily for us, it's not actually too hard to find the folk song Hanayome Ningyō, or The Bridal Doll. Just type The Bridal Doll Japanese song into YouTube and you'll find several renditions of the tune available. One of the slower versions will sound very familiar. The top result even has lyrics with a translation on it. The song starts out about a bride preparing for her wedding while crying, having understandably mixed feelings about what's about to happen. Then the song begins describing her paper doll, also a bride, who cannot cry for she would tear to pieces if she tried. I personally imagined Hinako as the bride and the Shiromuku as the paper doll. One chastised for her feelings, the other unable to express any, simply going through the motions expected of them. I highly recommend taking a few minutes to listen to these if you're interested. There's a harp version that's ethereal. And even a more jazzy, danceable version. I'll make sure to link to all the ones I referenced in the description. On the topic of songs, Mayoi Uta, which is the theme of Silent Hill F, is typically translated to mean lost song, but when I looked up Mayoi just as a word, there's a lot of other interesting tidbits here. It can mean hesitation, bewilderment, indecision. It can even mean illusion or delusion. There's even a phrase, Mayoi komu, which means to lose one's way. There's also Mayoi no Sekai, world of the lost, aka the human realm / this world. This is a phrase used in Buddhism. どんな結果だろうと、自分で選んだ結果なら、それが幸せだと、そうと言える時代がきっと訪れると思うわ。お姉ちゃんはその世界には行けないけれど、Hinakoは行けるといいね。The Shiromuku in Silent Hill F represents only one Hinako that could exist. And I'm sure Hinako would argue only one part of one Hinako that could exist. If you manage to reach the true ending in the game, you find clarity, but not answers. Not yet. Hinako has to figure out if that SHIROMUKU will exist at all in her future. Does she feel confident in her ability to embrace it without wiping the slate clean of who she really is? She wants to be able to trust herself, and trust the man she may eventually marry to be strong, uncompromising personalities, beings that have lived a bit of life, made mistakes, learned who they really are in the world at large, and found a comfortable enough space within themselves to make room to share it with someone else. I would like to express my appreciation for the letter you sent me. It was quite enlightening. I will follow in your footsteps and start by simply trying to enjoy life. I intend to become reacquainted with my inner child, discover my own dreams, and live life to the fullest. And once I have done so, I hope to reevaluate my feelings for you. Perhaps Hinako and Kotoyuki will end up going their own ways, grateful for having had the chance to know each other, that their brief relationship gave them the strength to forge a totally different path. Over the years, I've admittedly grown a bit of a distaste for the term true ending in games, but I appreciate how Silent Hill F uses it. I think it's because, while it's an ending to the game, it's not an ending for Hinako. Cheesy as it sounds, it's more of a beginning. She's reclaimed the present, declared her autonomy and independence literally before the kami, and overcame the powers that wanted to interfere with and manipulate her future. She's realized that her other half, the one more willing to don that SHIROMUKU, must be embraced and reconciled with, whatever shape that ends up taking. The important thing is Hinako gets to choose how her life will unfold. Not society, not her loved ones, not the gods. Shimizu Hinako. Thank you all for watching my first video essay, aka Marley gushes about stuff she thinks is cool. I really enjoy learning more about the historical and cultural context for things in video games, and I'll probably be doing more of that on this channel in the future. Feel free to yell at me in the comments. Did you find this topic interesting? Have you ever participated in a Japanese wedding as a bridegroom or guest? What was it like? How did you interpret Hinako's battle with the SHIROMUKU? What other Silent Hill F topics would you like to see me cover? Please take a moment to like the video if you liked it, share it with a friend, and consider subscribing so you don't miss future uploads. As the great Isaac Clarke once said, stick around, I'm full of bad ideas.